Right now in Florida, there's two distinct housing markets existing at the same time. One is relatively stable, the other has started breaking. And the people that can see it are the ones that are watching foreclosure activity, not prices. Because prices move last. Payments, that fails first. So if you're waiting for the headlines to tell you that the market's changing, you're missing out. This video is gonna be a little bit longer than normal because this isn't entertainment. I wanna actually drop some facts on you guys so that you can make more informed decisions. First, we'll talk about what's actually happening in Florida versus the rest of the country. Second, real world MLS data here in Central Florida that I pulled personally. Third, we'll talk about how you as a buyer can get foreclosure deals. And fourth, what you homeowners out there need to understand before the clock runs out. By the way, I've also built a downloadable little ebook called the Foreclosure Playbook. Do me a favor, go to the description, follow me on Instagram, and send me a DM. Now let's start with what almost everybody misunderstands. Everyone's watching price cuts, and that's the last stage of a housing shift. The first stage is what's most important, and that's missed payments. The second stage is foreclosure filing. The third stage is inventory, and the fourth stage is price movement. Most people only react to stage 4. Florida just quietly moved into stage 2. Not a crash, but real pressure. And pressure always starts locally before it spreads. And look, this is important. Housing shifts don't start everywhere. They're very localized. They change neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, county by county. Which is why national headlines are just completely useless for making local decisions. So instead of theory, let's talk actual data. So I pulled 3 years of MLS bank-owned REO, AKA foreclosure activity. Not estimates, not articles, actual closed transactions directly from the MLS right here in Central Florida. My focus, by the way, was 4 counties: Orange, Lake, Seminole, and Volusia. Now, in Orange County, I want to go through some of the numbers with you. In 2023, there was 114 bank-owned sales. 2024, 99. In 2025, 110. So as you can see, it dropped and then it came back a little. That's not a collapse, but you can kind of see there's a little bit of early stress. Now in Seminole County, kind of holding strong. In 2023, 36. In 2024, 26. And in 2025, 24. Seminole County is not screaming distress as of yet. It's pretty stable. Why? Because high equity is protecting those homeowners. Meanwhile, other areas aren't necessarily behaving the same. Volusia County, a little bit of a warning signal. 2023, 35. 2024, 27. 2025, 51. That's nearly a 90% increase in just 1 year. That's kind of the beginning of what foreclosure expansion kind of looks like. It's something we're definitely going to have to watch. Lastly, let's look at Lake County. 2023 and 2024 both saw 24 REO sales. 2025, only 15. No expansion. Owners still using equity as a shield. Pretty good. This data kind of points to the exact misconception that people are just not understanding. Markets shift and can be very localized. Even right here in Central Florida, I just gave you a snapshot of 4 counties and 2 of them are wildly different from the other 2. And they damn near all touch. Now, let's keep moving on because this next part actually can start to shake inventory. And it's banks and their freaking shadow inventory and how they have a tendency to just slowly and quietly release that inventory back. They stagger them. They're not gonna dump them all into the market at once. If they did that, they crash their own collateral values. So they slowly will inject inventory into the market. Sometimes it can come months or even a year later. That is known as shadow inventory. And what does this mean? That means foreclosure activity typically starts long before you actually start to see the rise, before we start to see actual impact in the numbers. The odd thing is, when they actually do rise, the public has a tendency to be like, oh my God, it's like, no, this has been coming for a long time. You just weren't looking. Now, let's quickly talk about how buyers can actually get foreclosure deals. There's 3 ways to buy foreclosure, and most people chase the wrong one, in my opinion. The auction, as many of you know, in my opinion, that's the worst place to start. In my opinion, the best opportunities are before or after the auction, not during it. So stage 1 of that is pre-foreclosure. So if you want some tips, You can go on Zillow and actually filter and isolate pre-foreclosures. You can also go to the respective county clerk of the court website for that respective county, and there you'll be able to find what's known as lis pendens filings. That is actual foreclosure filings. And there you can begin your hunt. By the way, if you want to make this whole process faster, you can use tools like 10X, PropStream, Vortex. You can, like for instance, PropStream is probably my favorite. Go sign on for a month and go hunting for pre-foreclosure activity. Again, get it before the auctions, not during. Now, let's talk really quickly about auctions because that's misunderstood. It's a lot harder than you think. Number one, cash is required. Number two, there's typically no inspections. If they are, it's very limited to what you can just see with your eyes, sometimes from just outside the home. Really limited, and even when you can get inside, they will have winterized it. You won't have running water. It's a big mess. Oh yeah, and did I mention, there's probably liens. And that is where beginners lose money. Now, stage 3 of this is actual bank-owned homes. This is a more realistic, safer, consistent method for the average buyer. Financing works, title's clear, and they're pretty readily available and easy to find. They're on the MLS everywhere. They're tagged REO. All you gotta do is tell your agent that you wanna search exclusively for REO properties. The discounts here are smaller, but it is definitely a much safer bet. Timing is very straightforward. It's a much more straightforward process. But again, don't look for massive discounts at this point. You gotta think of it this way. Foreclosures reward patience. And listen, my final point here is to my homeowners. If you watching this are in pre-foreclosure right now, just because you're talking to the bank, it's not stopping the clock. And I need you to understand that. Waiting for approval does not stop the clock. It does not stop foreclosure. It doesn't even hit the pause button. The timeline is always moving. It's always continuing. If you can't reinstate or refinance, I need you to understand this is your most valuable asset, and it's a whole lot safer of a scenario to sell than to lose your equity position. We deal with this every single day. And no, this isn't some stupid sales pitch. The reality is, if you find yourself in a situation where you're facing foreclosure, it's better to get the liquidity and get out and reset yourself and maybe lower your payment, get into something more affordable, get into a rental while you stabilize. But the last thing you want to do is negotiate, and then at the 11th hour, the bank says no, and you're stuck up against a hard stop, and you can't sell, and you have no money for repairs, and your options have dwindled, and next thing you know, the sheriff's at your door. Listen, I hope you found that useful. I have a really in-depth checklist that all of you can benefit from. Doesn't matter if you're an agent, doesn't matter if you're a homeowner. Again, go into the description and find my Instagram and send me a DM over there, Foreclosure Playbook, and I promise you, I've got a lot of stuff in there that'll help you as a buyer, seller, or if you're a realtor out there. Again, just go over to Instagram, DM me Foreclosure Playbook, you'll get it instantly. Remember, housing markets don't change loudly. They change quiet at first. And the people who understand this early operate in a very different market than everyone else does. Listen, if you got use out of this, do me a favor, smash the subscribe button, give me a like, and do me a favor, drop in the comments, have you ever purchased a foreclosure before? Have you ever dealt with a foreclosure proceeding? Was it a nightmare? Was it easy? Was it smooth? Did you have any problems? Tell me your story. I'd love to learn your situation, but more importantly, the more of you that share in the comments, others can learn, all right? And I really appreciate what happens in the comments, actually. Except for you haters, don't do that. Actually, I don't care. Let have it, because dialogue is great. And the more we talk, the more we learn. The more you win, I win, we win. That's the secret.